All right, so continuing in with our business foundations legal considerations. Now I want to start talking about some general tips and tricks for starting your own practice and things to consider and things that really get overlooked until it's push comes to shove and it's time to really start registering things. And sometimes you do things and you don't know that it was a thing, and you end up getting in trouble a little later. So hopefully I can share some information with you that will prevent you from some headaches down the road. One of the really important things that you want to consider are your zoning laws. A lot of people have visions for their practice and they have visions for what they want to do, but turns out the spot that you're looking at that looks like it's nice cheap rent is not a spot where you're able to start a massage therapy practice. So there are zoning laws for this kind of stuff that you'll look at, and we're going to do a quick overview. Understanding zoning ordinances and what they are, specific considerations for standalone clinics, operating from a home if you plan on doing that, steps to compliance, and what are the best practices for zoning laws. So, the first thing that I would suggest everybody do is make sure you research your local codes. Each municipality, depending on where you live, we're currently in Pennsylvania, so most of the information that I'm going to give you is based on Pennsylvania. But if you're in New Jersey, Delaware, Florida, California, your particular municipality and your county is going to be different than what it is in Pennsylvania. So I don't want to give you what the ordinance are here in Chester County, Pennsylvania, because if you live in Berks County, Pennsylvania, this could be different information. But what you want to do is make sure you research your own local codes, and each municipality or county should have its own set of different zoning ordinances. And massage therapists, you really want to start by obtaining the zoning map and the code from your local municipality. All you do is call up your local municipality and say, hey, can I get the zoning map? And they'll tell you exactly what streets and what buildings, actually, what structures are zoned for whatever kind of commercial properties or residential properties. And are you allowed to operate commercial businesses out of a residential property? Sometimes you'll have a dual. And depending on the type of commercial property, you may only be able to operate a certain kind of business out of that commercial property. For example, like a warehouse versus a strip mall, you will have different kinds of ordinances and companies that will be allowed to operate out of certain businesses depending on the type of commercial zoning that it is. So you really want to identify the specific zoning requirements. You're going to look for information that's specific to not only your commercial enterprise, but also to health related services, because massage therapy is going to be considered in a health related service. Certain areas within your zoning municipality may not allow for healthcare facilities next to, a water treatment plant or something like that. So there's going to be real fine nuances, and you want to make sure that the place that you're about to sign a lease for is in a zone that you're able to operate in. So before you sign any leases, before you start looking at properties and doing market research, you really want to know what your zoning ordinance is, and that'll tell you exactly what little pockets within your county you're able to operate in, and now you can start looking for a place to rent or looking for market research. Next thing you're going to do for a standalone clinic for commercial zoning, most standalone clinics will need to be in areas that are zoned for commercial use. If you're going to have a standalone clinic and you're not in somebody else's office, you really want to make sure that the building that you have that's a standalone clinic is zoned for commercial use. This will become important when maybe you're deciding to operate out of your house. Is your house in a commercial zone or not? You need to know. Also, the zoning permits are going to allow you to have specific regulations. So different building accessibility. Is it ADA compliant? Does it need to be ADA compliant? Not every place needs to be. Is there enough parking? That was an issue that I actually was having to deal with. I had pre-signed a lease and turned out that I was going to have too much parking, and the area that I'm in, the office condos or whatever, only allow so many spaces, and it was going to become an issue. So we had to work it out with some of the other tenants, and thankfully, adults can work it out sometimes. But in any case, you want to make sure that the parking is going to work out for you and that your signage is going to work out for you. So we had a sign up on my glass window, and it turned out that that was against the zoning ordinance, and I had to take my sign down. So not only did I pay for it, but then I had to pay for its removal. So I've made these mistakes before, and I'm trying to save you from making these mistakes. Make sure you look at your commercial zoning. Make sure you look at the parking accessibility, the building accessibility, the signage, what's allowed, what's not allowed. You can't just have a big green neon sign anywhere you want. There are certain parts of town where that's allowed and certain parts of town where that's not allowed. And this is all controlled by the zoning ordinances. So make sure you look at what your vision is for your practice and what you want it to look like and how you want your signage to be, and make sure that's in compliance with the zone that you intend on operating out of for your standalone clinic. Same thing with your house. We'll get that in the next slide, but if you need to, you can get a special permit. Depending on the locality, you may need a special permit or a conditional use approval. So just because you're renting a space and just because you own a business doesn't necessarily mean that you're able to offer services out of that place. You may need a special permit in some circumstances because of the different types of liability you may be offering. And if you're doing hot stone, maybe that particular modality, because it involves heat and heating up things, needs a special permit to operate that particular service. So, are there any special permits? Are there any conditional use approvals? How many people are you allowed in the building is a fire code ordinance. Just because you have a vision to treat 20 people at the same time and have 5 different practitioners in your building, but you've got 1,000 square feet of room, and the fire code says you can't have more than 15 people in this building at one time, it's not safe, then you have to oblige the fire code because it's now not safe. You should not be doing that. So check what your special permits are. Do you need a special permit to be operating? Do you need a special permit to be doing whatever type of service you want to be providing? And is it in compliance with the zoning regulations in your particular county and in the space that you want to eventually operate out of? This is a really common one. A lot of people want to work out of their homes, but you may not be able to. And you really just want to check what your home ordinance is and what you're allowed to do. So, home occupation permits are available in different counties and different areas. You may want to look at, do I need a home occupation permit? A lot of residential zones do allow for home based businesses, but they require a home occupation permit. The permit usually stipulates that the business should not really disrupt your neighbors. If there's a lot of traffic in and out of your driveway, if you have signage in your front yard, that might get in conflict with your HOA regulations. You may want to operate out of your home. You may be allowed to operate out of your home, but your neighbors may not want you to, and your HOA may not want you to. So not only do you want to consider getting a home occupation permit just to kind of avoid all that hassle, but you may not be able to get a home occupation permit. So it's something that you want to look at, especially if you plan on operating your business out of your home. There's also some restrictions because the number of clients seen in a day. Like if you want to scale your business, maybe it's you and somebody else. Maybe you're seeing 3 or 4 people a day, and that's usually okay. But if you've got 7 to 8 clients coming in, and then you end up hiring somebody, and now you've got 2 people working out of a basement, and you've got 14, 15 people coming in and out of the driveway on the block, that starts to become a problem, especially if they're non-family members and you have non-family member employees. That starts getting a little dicey too when you operate out of a home. So there are restrictions. You can't just own a home, renovate your bathroom, renovate your basement, and expect it to be ADA compliant bathroom and a basement that holds a massage table and hope to operate a business. There are rules, legal considerations, and operation permits and restrictions, and you may not be able to do what you're planning on doing. So you really want to check this stuff. Last thing you want to do is spend $50,000 renovating your basement, and now you can't even operate out of your basement because your neighbor complained and it's actually against the rules and you don't have a permit, and now you have to close your business up or look for somewhere else, and you just wasted 50 grand renovating your basement. Not a smart thing to do. Check the regulations first, okay? There's also health and safety regulations when you operate out of your home. So, the health department is going to need to approve, not necessarily need to approve, but they might want to approve, especially in your county or your municipality. The health department may want to ensure that it is meeting the operations of, health and safety standards. And there's a little bit more when you're in the healthcare field. So, you're offering a healthcare service as a massage therapist, and now there are other health and safety regulations involved, whether it's pain, hygiene, or anything else. The health department may get involved in your particular municipality, and you may need to get a health inspection, or you may need to get regular health inspections on a regular basis. So, operating out of your home is convenient because there's not the expense and overhead that gets added, but there is a lot of red tape with it, and it's not the route that I would normally suggest most massage therapists go in. But if you've got the perfect scenario where there's not a lot of regulations on your home, you don't mind people coming in and out of your home, and your neighbors are pretty much okay with it, or you don't have neighbors, and you can put the signage out. There's no ordinances or anything. Fantastic. That would be beautiful. That means that your situation is pretty unique. But a lot of people, when they're going to start their practice, they may not think about all these things, and they may just say, well, I'll just operate out of my house. And I just want to caution that person, you may not be able to, and you want to check these things first. If you have the perfect scenario, fantastic. If you don't, better be safe than sorry. So what are the steps to compliance? You can consult with your local authorities. They're pretty open about this stuff. A very early discussion with them, making sure you get your local planning and your zoning officials involved. They can provide guidance. They can help you avoid costly mistakes like renovating your bathroom and renovating your basement, which are super expensive. That you'll avoid a lot of headache. Just call them up, ask them a question. It's not hard to do. You can just go on your local municipality website, see who the zoning ordinance guy is, who the inspector is for commercial properties, and you can talk to them. They'll give you all the information that you need. If you really want to, you could get some legal advice. It's not super expensive, maybe $2,000 or so to get some lawyer consultations. And they're going to be familiar with local business laws that can be beneficial, especially when you're interpreting different zoning laws and applying for permits. You may not know legal jargon, and it's helpful for a lawyer to help you interpret those things. Well, I thought it said this. Well, the judge doesn't care what you thought it said. It says what it says, and it means what it says. And if you don't understand what it says, you might want to have a lawyer interpret it for you and to tell you exactly in common terms what that particular ordinance is trying to say, and how it should be interpreted in the confines of the law. Because at the end of the day, like I said, the judge doesn't care what you thought it meant. It says what it says and it means what it says. And if you don't understand it, you might want to pay someone who does understand it to tell you what it means. There's also some community engagement that you want to get for steps for compliance. Sometimes, especially in a home-based business, it's really important to engage with your neighbors and like mitigate any concerns about your business and your operations. If they're aware that you're going to have people coming in and out, you might, reduce the risk of them reporting you to the HOA board and that kind of stuff. So you might want to talk to your neighbors first before you end up doing a home business. And it's really important to talk to your neighbors when you have a prospective commercial insurance, not commercial insurance, I'm sorry. When you have a potential commercial property that you want to rent and operate out of, there are people next door that are going to be your potential neighbors. Hey, what's the signage ordinance like? What's the sound ordinance like? Are you allowed to have the X, Y, and Z? The people that you may be renting next to or even owning next to could have valuable information for you. So I would do some community engagement and talk to your neighbors, whether that's commercial neighbors or actually residential neighbors. As far as best practice is concerned, it is to always ensure compliance with your local zoning laws. You want to stay up to date with any changes. Sometimes laws change, new people get elected, and they change things sometimes. It's also wise to plan for the possibility of zoning amendments and have a contingency plan. So if you're allowed to operate out of your home and then a new HOA board comes in and they say you're not allowed to, what are you going to do about that? Have a plan B ready to go so you can just pull the trigger when you want. And I know I keep talking about home businesses. Often, most of the time, if you get like a commercial real estate agent and you get a commercial spot, you're probably not going to run into a whole lot of these issues. Maybe with like signage and how bright things can be and how colorful things can be, or the font. Sometimes you drive by one of those strip malls and they all have the same font and they all look the exact same, but they're all different businesses. What's going on with that? They're like commercial HOAs kind of, and they say, well, your signage has to use this text and it's got to be this bright, and I don't care what your logo is, they all need to look like this for whatever reason. So it's always best practice to plan ahead. Things may change, be amendable, make sure you're staying up to date with the current codes and current ordinances and the permissive use of the properties that you plan on going on, whether it's commercial property or residential property. Make sure you navigate these things pretty carefully. From the very start, it's helpful to kind of establish your massage therapy business on very solid ground so you don't have to move it around too much, doesn't have to be too fluid, and you can get a firm foundation for your practice when you're first starting off. The last thing you need is to be launching your business and starting to get patients in the door, and all of a sudden, time out, you got to stop everything and restart from scratch. That can be very costly, not only out of your pocket, but very costly for patients and their perception of you as a business owner, and you may sacrifice the potential of your business to skyrocket off the bat when you're open for 3 months and now you have to close because of a zoning ordinance. So make sure you just carefully look at these things, and you want to establish yourself on a solid ground. You want to have a strong foundation when you're starting off your practice and avoid any legal troubles at all. Foster good relationships with the local authorities, foster good relationships with the current people in your municipality. This way you have a community of people trying to help your business thrive. The authorities are there to help you. They're not there to hinder you. They're there to show you what the rules are, to help you and guide you through them, and they're there to support you as a business owner, because the more small businesses there are in the community, the better everybody does. That's a known fact. And the municipalities and the authorities want you to be successful, but they want you to be successful within the confines of the rules, and they're going to help you and they want to be there for you. But if you're just doing it by yourself and you're opening up and you're not asking any questions and you're not fostering good relationships, you're going to get in trouble, and it could be bad for you. It could be bad for your business. So I strongly encourage you, just foster good relationships with your authorities in your community, your neighbors, the people that are around you, and everything should go well. You'll get really good, valuable information from most people. Everybody generally wants to help, and that's been my experience when I talk to my neighbors, when I talk to my local authorities, when I talk to the home inspector, and when I talk to the commercial inspector and the fire guy. They're all really, really nice people, and they genuinely want to help, and they're just laying out what the rules are. Hey, just be aware, you can't do this, you can't do that. And it's like, okay, thanks for the heads up, you know. So I would strongly encourage you to foster those good relationships. So I think that is, yeah. So next video, we're going to talk about privacy regulations. We're going to go over key elements of HIPAA relevant information for massage therapists. We're going to go over the practical steps to try and enhance your privacy. And we're going to talk about building client trust through privacy practices. But that's it for this current module on best practices with what the legal considerations are on different zoning laws. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you're really enjoying this series.